Greetings to all my tech heads out there in the KevTechify nation, and if you're new here, welcome. In this episode, we're going to look at DHCP version 6. We'll be discussing DHCP version 6 operation steps, stateless and stateful DHCP version 6 operation, and then finally, we're going to look at enabling stateless and stateful DHCP operation on an interface. This episode is part of my series on switching, routing, and wireless essentials. I'm Kevin here at KevTechify. Let's get this adventure started. How DHCP version 6 works is there's a 6-step process to this. It all starts off with that PC booting up, and it sends out that router solicitation message. That router solicitation message, that goes to all the routers in that special multicast all routers group. And so that router solicitation goes out on the network to that multicast address. All the routers hear it, and then they send back an advertisement. That advertisement goes once again to a special group on the network, and that's the all nodes group. Once that PC gets in that router advertisement, it looks and sees what's in there. And it looks at the flags that are set, the A, the O, the M flags. And if either the O or the M flag is set, it's going to go and query a DHCP version 6 server. And then what happens here is it sends out a solicit to all of the DHCP servers on the network. So this is a broadcast. All DHCP servers, DHCP version 6 servers on the network are going to receive it. They're going to hear that. Then that DHCP version 6 server is going to send back a unicast, an advertisement, basically saying, hey, I'm a DHCP version 6 address. I'd like to work with you. That goes, it's a unicast, and it goes right back to the PC1. PC1 gets that in, and then we make a request or an information request. And we can send that as a unicast here because we know which DHCP version 6 server we are working with. We make that request, the DHCP version 6 server gets that request in, and then it replies back with the necessary information. 6-step process here to get our DHCP version 6 information. Starting off with querying the router, and then the router tells us what DHCP version 6, or it tells us that we should contact a DHCP version 6 server. We go, we look for a DHCP server, then we request information. Stateless DHCP version 6 only provides configurations, parameters for the clients. Maybe some additional information, in where to go to get your time or whatever the information is. Now, how we set that up is when we get that router advertisement back from the router, we send out a router solicitation. That router solicitation is heard by the all routers group. They send back a router advertisement. You as the administrator configured it to have the flags. We have the A flag, the O flag, the M flag. The A flag is the automatic configuration flag. That's one that's our SLAAC here. It says, okay, you're going to generate your own IP version 6 information. The O flag here is the other configurations. What that is you can contact to get some other information. Contact the DHCP version 6 server to get some other information. M is the managed address configuration is not set. We're not going to contact the server to get our IP address information because we're going to use SLAAC with the A flag is set for us. Once again, with SLAAC, we're generating our own user ID, that last 64 bits, and nobody's keeping track of the information. We get the first part, that network part, that first 64 bits of our IP version 6 address, that's our network information. So all of our devices, including our router, has that network information. And when they send the router advertisement, we get that. And then they tell us for that last 64 bits of our 128-bit IP version 6 address, use a generation method to generate that last 64, and we're not going to keep track of it. Also, we set the O flag to 1, contact that DHCP server. and we go and we contact that DHCP version 6 server. Now, once again, this is a stateless server. This stateless server does not keep track of your IP address, MAC address, any of that information. All it does is give you some configuration some configuration parameters for your clients. That's all it does. If you like this episode on DHCP version 6 and you get value out of it, and depending upon what platform you're using, please click that like button, give a 5-star rating, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment. Doing this supports the channel, which in turn helps me bring you more great content. You can also visit my website at KevTechify.com for all of my details and how to get these episodes in video and podcast form. To enable the stateless part of the DHCP version 6 on a specific interface, you have to go into that interface. Then once you're in there, go ahead and enter in the command IP version 6 space nd space other dash config dash flag. And what this does is it sets that other config flag, or the O flag, to 1. It sets the O flag equal to 1. When that O flag is set to 1, that router advertisement, when a host gets it or when a client gets it, it's going to say, okay, you need to contact the Stateless DHCP version 6 server to get some additional information. Now, how can we verify we did that? If you issue a show IP version 6 interface of the gig 001, and right here we just began with the ND statement because that's part of our statement we entered in here. Now we're saying, up here we're saying DAD is enabled. That duplicate address identifier is. At the bottom here, we can see that it says host use stateless autoconfig for addresses. This is the A flag. This is the A flag right here. And it's saying the A flag is set to 1. And we're going to use some sort of SLAAC auto generation to generate those last 64 bits in our 128-bit IP version 6 address. Line right here says host use DHCP to obtain other configurations. This is saying here the O flag is set to 1. And that's the other information. We're going to contact a stateless DHCP. They're not going to keep track of what address we're using, but they will give us other configuration parameters. How the DHCP version 6 stateful operation happens is, once again, the PC turns on, it sends out a router solicitation message to the all routers group. The all routers group then replies back with a router advertisement to the all nodes. And in that router advertisement, we have our flag set. And once again, we're using a stateful DHCP version 6 server. This is going to keep track of every piece of information for DHCP, what address you're using, what MAC address you're at, and in any other configuration parameters there. It's going to have all of that information. It's keeping a record of that. In the router advertisement message, our 3 flags are A, R, O, R, M. The only one that is set here is our M flag. This is the managed flag. We're saying we're going to use some sort of managed server. The other flags aren't set. And so the router advertisement comes back to PC1, and in there it says, okay, you're going to do that. PC1 sends out basically a broadcast to all DHCP version 6 servers on our network saying, I'm looking for a DHCP server. And then that conversation happens, and a stateful DHCP version 6 server gives all of the necessary information to PC1 and also keeps a record of information like what IP address they're using to the MAC address of PC1. When we look at that, how we go through and we set that up here is we go into the interface, and then we use the command IP version 6 nd space manage dash config flag. What this does is it sets the M flag right here, they set that to 1. And then when it sends out that router advertisement, it sees that the M flag is 1. The host or the client then says, okay, the M flag is set to 1, I have to look for a stateful DHCP server. Now, when we go ahead and we show that we do an IP version 6 interface G001, we begin it with the ND again. We can see that we have some information, but then down here, our last line, hosts use DHCP to obtain routable addresses. We aren't configuring them by ourselves. We're not doing an automatic configuration, but we have to use this DHCP server to obtain our address. And once again, this is our M flag that is set to 1. Now, to undo that flag, you simply re-enter this command, but you put a no at the beginning. So no IP version 6 ND manage config flag. It was my pleasure to provide you with this wonderful episode on DHCP version 6. If you like this episode and you got value out of it, and of course, depending upon what platform you're using, please click that like button, give a 5-star rating, leave a comment. This all helps me bring you more great content. Please take a minute to subscribe to my channel. All of my socials and contact information are on my website, KevTechify.com, and you can get all of these episodes in video and podcast form. In the upper right is my playlist for my series on switching, routing, and wireless essentials. In the bottom right is one of my favorite videos that I linked just for you. Thank you so much for watching this episode of my series on switching, routing, and wireless essentials. Once again, I'm Kevin. This is KevTechify. I'll see you next time for another great adventure.